welcome to the Cosmic Prayer Show. You might be wondering, what
Who are
happened
these
to
people?
Reverend Laura? What's going on? Well, a few months ago, Reverend Laura interviewed us, and during that show, we said, hey, have you ever been interviewed? And no, she had never been interviewed. So today we are turning the tables, and we're going to interview Reverend Laura about her experience with prayer. Pretty exciting, right?
Pretty exciting.
Hey, Melissa, do you want to tell them a little bit more
Sure,
about
I will.
Reverend Laura?
Laura is a spiritual teacher, love leader, broadcaster, and founder of the Women of Power Alliance. Over the past 30 years, Laura has been intrigued with mysticism, metaphysics, and spirituality. In 2012, Laura's direct rite of passage experience with oneness in the midst of the labyrinth led her on an inner expedition of more study and a deepening of understanding of how life works and how to apply practical spirituality to everyday living. Laura has learned from spiritual leaders globally who are shifting into new beginnings and are ready and willing to unfold into their divine magnificence and live from the overflow of prosperity, peace, and vitality. Laura supports midlife leaders who are called to adventure and transform lives as they boldly and gracefully live into their soul calling, sacred purpose, and spiritual magnificence. Most recently, in August of 2020, Reverend Laura founded and has been since facilitating the Cosmic Prayer Show, which is this. And we are here. Oh, I'm Reverend Dr. Melissa, and this is...
Oh, Reverend Z. Egloff. We forgot to say who we are.
We are with Oh My God Live, and today we are hosting this fabulous guest. We are very excited that you get to now know a little bit more about your spiritual leader, Reverend Laura.
So let's welcome her to the show now.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Hello.
We're so happy that you joined us on the show that we stole from you.
Yeah. I'm so happy you stole it from me.
Oh, it's so fun.
We're so happy.
Oh, it's great to be here. And it feels bizarre and it feels wonderful to be here like this with you, sharing in this way.
Thank you very much for saying yes to this.
Yes.
I know that as the person who is normally asking all the questions, that it's a little more probably vulnerable for you to be on this side of the discussion. So we are very grateful that you're willing to share more deeply with all of your fans and listeners.
And we have lots of questions, probably more than we have time for, but I'm curious, first of all, how you discovered the 5-step treatment, the Science of Mind prayer. How did you discover that in your life?
Well, okay. I didn't grow up. I mean, I'm going to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up, my family is Jewish by origin. I grew up in the Jewish tradition, not very Orthodox, although they like to think they're Orthodox, although most Orthodox Jewish people kind of go to synagogue twice a year and do what's required rather than do, the extra bits. So I grew up with always feeling there was some kind of hypocritical thing going on here, coming from an Orthodox family and not really practicing. And it was kind of a mixed message for me. And thankfully in our religion, in the Jewish religion, food and family and humor and that feeling of oneness is really there in the family. And yet in the synagogue, I was always really bored because I couldn't understand any of it. It wasn't in English, and it was like, I couldn't connect with, I connected with the feeling, but not with, I didn't intellectually really get it. So prayer for me was not it wasn't an intentional thing other than my own dialogue within me with God as a child. I remember going in the garden, just at the back of the garden, I had a fairy garden, and it was like I was in an enchanted space and talking with something, but I didn't know really what it was, but I knew that it was something other than, something beyond, something magical. And then when in 2012, I mean, in 2000, I was about 18, and I discovered more of different kind of spirituality, but it was really in 2012 when I began, 2011, when I began the Louise Hay training, teacher training and coach training, that there was a kind of a version of treatment in there, in that training program.
Mm-hmm.
And although she did, it wasn't really explained in the same way as with Science of Mind, it wasn't quite so in depth. It was definitely my first awareness of not praying to something or praying from something within me and knowing that I am that thing. It was a connection piece, knowing that the connection is always here. And so that was really beautiful for me. And I remember in her workshops, she starts her treatments by saying, in the infinity of life, where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. And that's how teachers are taught to treat in her training.
Beautiful.
It wasn't a 5-step process, but it was kind of like that was the beginning of it. In the infinity of life, where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete, which actually really is kind of the first 2 steps of treatment in a sentence.
Yeah, I love that, and I've never heard that before.
It just sums it up
more
precisely.
Yeah. So that was, without knowing it, that was my first experience of treatment. And then as I began to study Science of Mind and really got into that, then of course I understood what the 5-step treatment was and could unpack that from Louise Hay and realize what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, I know because you're in England, correct?
I am.
So I know there aren't as many, centers for spiritual living over there. Was it something that you discovered online, or was it an in-person facility, or how did you,
come across
it and learn more?
Yeah. When I took the Louise Hay training, I walked a labyrinth, and that was a part of facilitation, and it was in San Diego. And I hadn't really heard of Science of Mind until that point, because they did talk a little bit about Louise Hay and her life as a religious scientist. So I walked the labyrinth and had a direct experience of oneness of God in that labyrinth. And it was, I'm saying it here in like 5 or 6 words, but actually it was like, it changed my life completely. Yeah. And I came back to the UK, and I was in the middle of giving a workshop, like a 5-week workshop. I gave 2 weeks of the workshop, went to San Diego, did the training, and then came back. So I kind of came back really discombobulated from what had happened in the labyrinth. That was like, oh my God, oh, okay, oh my God, life. And I came back, and one of the women in the workshop said to me, no, it wasn't just randomly. She just said to me, have you ever heard of Science of Mind? There's a Reverend here in the UK. I'd like to introduce you to her. And she gave me her number, and we emailed, and that was Reverend Anya Slater, who's here in Bournemouth. And I began foundations classes on Skype, because that's how she was working at that time, one-on-one. Taking the classes with her, and she then took me and then 2 others all the way through practitioner on Skype every week for years.
Was it always one-on-one, the whole training with her?
The way she works, because over here there isn't the demand, well, there isn't the supply, demand, there is the supply, but not the demand. There's, people aren't, it's not as, the awareness of Science of Mind is not as great as it is in the States. So she works, as people come along, she tries to group people together, but more often than not, it may be one person going through a process, or 2 or 3 if she can kind of get the timings right. Yeah.
Right,
So I
right.
worked with her all the way through foundations one-on-one, and then
Wow.
she had another Margaret Chapman, who's in Ireland. She joined us as well, and she became a practitioner. We paneled at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Great.
And then you went to ministerial school, and you are now a reverend, I believe. You are.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am.
Congratulations.
I went. Thank you. Thank you. I licensed on the, I think it was the 3rd of October this year.
I was going to say,
So-
it was after we were interviewed by you.
Yes, that's right.
So it's
You're obviously way
you're-
more enlightened now. We can tell too. It's just
Yeah.
a whole different thing. But congratulations, because it's
Yes,
a very
it's a big
it's a
deal.
very long journey in this
Yes.
tradition in terms of all that's
All the
required to get
training.
here. We know. So congratulations on that, because that's a
Yes.
big thing. I love too that you talked about your experience, your direct experience of spirit.
Yes.
That's just so beautiful, and it's so inspiring to me. And I love that about prayer and the 5-step treatment, right? Because it is a direct way to communicate and co-create with spirit. So I love
Yes.
that for you, it came out of that
Yeah.
direct
Right. The experience was first.
And it's
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, I hear a lot of people saying, I mean, that's not everybody, but I hear it a lot. Let me rephrase. I hear it a lot. I came into Science of Mind or Centers for Spiritual Living, because a friend dragged me to a Sunday talk and I didn't want to go. I hear that so many. Or
Yeah.
I picked up a book. I picked up the Science of Mind textbook or a book, started reading it and needed to know more. And for me, it was, and then wanting to manifest something, manifest money or a house or a job, or in that place of, not optimal health, and wanting a healing. And for me, it was kind of, I didn't want to manifest anything because I'd had this experience. I was just obsessed. I was kind of like, I need to know what's happened. I need to know what's happened. And that drove me into finding Science of Mind and continuing. And the prayer piece has just evolved and become more and more of, I don't know, I can't imagine how my life was before prayer.
Mm-hmm.
How does that show up in your life these days? Prayer practice, or like, how do you have a specific time or a specific way or certain practices or systems or anything? Like, how does prayer show up in your life these days?
So when I think it was probably about 2 years ago when Reverend Anya, no, it was 3 years ago maybe, and she said to me, we know the two most powerful steps of the treatment are the first two, and that if I just do the first two steps, I've done the treatment. And I practiced that for 3 or 4 weeks, really, really embodying the first two steps, and then just simply letting it go and knowing that it's done, because I realized she was right, that by getting to that place after the second step of treatment, which is the unification of who I am and whose I am, it was like, okay, I don't need anything else, because it's here right now in me as me. And then in the middle of a class with Dr. Tom Sanner, he talked about this, and he talked about how Ernest had called this the absolute treatment. And that's all really is that's needed. And so I do that a lot. I do that a lot, and it feels really good to get to. It is about getting into that place within me where sometimes I just get like really hot, and it's like, oh my God, I'm there. Okay, it's like having a hot flush, and I'm in that place, and I know when then I'm really communing and connected. And then there are times in the day where I can just know it within, and it's like I don't need to do a ritualistic kind of sitting and breathing, and I can just click into it. But I think the more that I really have worked on having that practice, it allows me in the day to just switch in if I want to easily.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so true.
Yeah, and I'm kind of fascinated too by the idea that you said, you know, for you, it wasn't really about manifestation, because for a lot of people, I think they come in that way and it's all about the step 3 manifestation. But in time, as their practice deepens, they kind of veer more toward what you're talking about, which is
consciousness.
Because when you have that, you have everything, and then things flow into your life naturally too. But I love that. It's really
beautiful.
Yeah, it was a mystical experience that led me to wanting to understand more logically. And so something switched in me where I knew I had to discover this teaching. I was just drawn to the teaching and Ernest Holmes, and since learning about him and his life and how he's pulled all these other teachers in and synthesized it, I love learning about the other teachers. I think they're great.
You have
independently of him. I love Emma Curtis Hopkins. I love Emma Curtis Hopkins. And I've been broadcasting a show with Reverend Kathy Mastroianni every other Tuesday called Wisdom of the Mystics. And on that show, we invite a spiritual leader on to talk about their mystic. And we've been doing that throughout this year. And it's really interesting how, like last week, Reverend Peggy Hostetler was on. She talked about Nona Brooks. And wow, these people are just incredible. The healings that they had for their own lives and how they brought the world forwards. Yeah, so I love delving in. And
Noah Brooks?
No,
I have not heard him.
Divine Science. She's the founder of Divine Science.
Oh, right.
We should know these things.
We should know that.
We are
Nona.
I was closer to having graduated. I might have remembered because that was in class. That was on a test somewhere.
Yeah.
I knew that at one time.
It was.
I loved Emma as well, too.
Yeah.
She's got that very strong mystical streak as well.
Yes.
So there's that. You
Know,
that's really wonderful. Well, they taught, Ernest Holmes, originally it wasn't 5 steps, right? 5 steps is the 5-step prayer treatment, as is now taught at Centers for Spiritual Living, was not from Ernest Holmes. He had, I believe, 3 steps originally.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting to hear you talk. It almost makes me think there's something to the purity and sort of spiritual sanctity of those first 2, and really it's almost like if someone comes to you and they're stuck and they want step 3, you just say, just do the first 2 for a while. Kind of. I don't know. That's really got me thinking what you said,
There's such a peace. It's just, it covers everything. Like, oh, I have this problem and that
covers everything.
But then when you look beyond or through or beneath or, to the meta of all of our little problems, or big problems, because we do have challenges in life, certainly. But if we look at that bigger picture, there is just it's not a problem anymore in the context of the all.
Yes. And the as you were saying that, I've got to remember it because that was like a went through my mind. I'm just going to come back to that. As a practitioner, I'm looking to go back to the mental cause. I'm looking at the belief and what is the spiritual cause or the truth of this situation. So if I can get behind the physical and go straight to the mental cause, then in a way, step 3 is kind of abandoned, because I'm automatically looking at or realizing and recognizing, uniting with myself and the wholeness of me. And so there is no imperfection, there is no lack if I'm in this place of knowing who I am.
Right.
So I think maybe I question.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Maybe then now I'm asking me and you, maybe that third step is for people who may come into this teaching seeking a metaphysical manifestation, seeking a physical manifestation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good and important, but it's also wonderful. Everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's also a way, I think, as this is kind of a new conversation. We will be continuing, you can be sure, after, but that when we, with that consciousness that you're coming from, that mystical awareness of the all that I am, that then if we bring in the thought or the experience that we're having of not that in an area of life, because certainly we all have things that we like want that aren't happening or whatever, right? So as we, if we can merge those two in our consciousness, the truth will always win, right? So if we can hold both of those at the same time, not as like 1, 2, and now 3, and now 4, not like as steps, but like as a meditation practice to saturate our consciousness so that we're bringing the issue into the healing truth place. Then it just dissolves it, right? So as opposed to fixing it or transforming it, it actually just reveals the truth beneath it in a way. Anyway, that was my thought about it, that could be.
I love that.
Like just saying, okay, and in this awareness, I now look at this. Like it's
now. I have another question for you, because you said, like, for you, there's, you had this revelation, you had this direct experience of spirit, and then for you, steps 1 and 2 are a way to continue to keep that alive and saturate yourself and all that. And I have a question for, you're not focusing on manifestations, but I'm guessing that because of prayer practice, that you've had all kinds of wonderful manifestations in your life. So I'm just curious to some of the things in your life that have shifted because of your relationship with the divine through prayer.
Okay, so having that experience was not an easy, it was like, okay, it was an amazing experience, and my heart kind of cracked wide open and my life cracked wide open. And in that, a lot of things changed. It was actually 10 years ago. So a lot of things shifted and changed. It was like a bursting through into a whole newness. And with that, there was kind of there was messy stuff, and it wasn't easy for me to process it and to understand it. It really rocked my world totally. And so I do use prayer when there are things that I want to see a demonstration of, a direct demonstration of also in my life. So I want to make that clear that I love the absolute treatment and I use it a lot. And there are things that I do and have used prayer for healing demonstrations for my life. And I've done that in ways to know the truth of who I am, so that I can have clearer relationships, i.e. with my daughter, or with Jason, or with my mother. I mean, there was a whole mother thing, and there was a whole daughter thing. And these teachings and the labyrinth experience helped me to, even though there was a resistance from them for my spiritual path choices, the teachings have helped me to realize really the truth of who I am. And then the demonstration that has occurred is their acceptance, because I accept myself now more fully. So I find that when I use prayer for a change in a belief, it's really powerful. Rather than using prayer for, okay, I'd like £5,000 tomorrow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a change in circumstance, but a change for a belief that might be maybe even behind that.
Holding. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, again, see, you're just deep. That's what it is. You're just deep. because
Yeah.
you're
I think
you're
so.
going to a deeper place, you know.
Well, that is, it's like, it is, I hear what Z's saying, I agree with, because it is often where a minister who's really walking their talk, because there are some who get here and learn the teaching, right? And then teach the teaching, but who really practice. And those of us who are really devoted to deepening our connection and our experience of the truth, we, a lot of us find ourselves like, eventually we get to the place. We, like Z was saying, we start out wanting things and changes in our life, and we want a better relationship and a house and a money and whatever. And in the process, we start to have more of those things successfully manifesting because of our practice. And in the process of that, we start to realize, oh, but what I'm really wanting is peace and joy and freedom. And the consciousness that created these things is not me, it's this greater thing. And that's what I want. I want that reality in and through my consciousness. And you
Yes.
kind of came at it the other way. You
Yeah.
came from that deeper experience that made you want more of it and to understand it more and to live your life from it more. And then things happened. It is like inside out from a lot of people's experience. And
It's
it is
inspiring.
Inside out.
beautiful. It's very beautiful.
And it's kind of like, it's been quite, I feel like, and because I'm here in the UK, where Science of Mind it is growing, but it's very, it's tiny compared to America. I'm not going to even compare it, but we have 3 reverends here now, and I think 5 or 6 practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yet it's been here for a few years. So it is embedded here. It's just not expanded here yet. So it's not always easy. And there's a lot of spiritual, we only have to go online now. There's all sorts of spiritual, so finding this teaching, being guided to this teaching for me was a blessing, because I know that I found something really true and something really real, and something where I'm not told what to think. I'm told, I'm invited how to think, and I can question my beliefs, and they don't have to match anyone else's beliefs. Right. And I think that's the key. We discover it in our own way, and there's no rules and there's no wrong, because it's all about this being on this journey, evolving with it, and using prayer as a tool to get to know myself more and how powerful I am. And I'm not just saying that because it's me. I mean, we all are.
Exactly.
Yes.
And and prayer can show us that because then things happen and it's like, oh my God, life. How did that happen?
Well, yeah, and you're really onto something, because prayer is the 5-step prayer treatment is a unique teaching of the Centers for Spiritual Living and the Science of Mind philosophy, right? That is a unique thing that's only found here. And so you're really onto something with this show. Now, I was curious, because the show started August of 2020, correct?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration? Like, how did it come about for you to want to create this show?
It was COVID, I'm sure. It was, in the midst of COVID and frustrated, and my business was changing, and I was in the middle of ministry education, and I met Reverend Robert. I was I was introduced to Reverend Robert through a friend of both of ours, and we had a chat. And I was doing a radio show at that time here, and I was really, it had come to an end with me and the radio show. That had been 2 years, and I got to a point, I was playing New Thought music here from the UK, and yeah, I felt limited with that, because I couldn't really say what I really wanted to say about God and spirituality. I could play the music, but I couldn't go on a rampage of, the light is within, and come on. So I found Reverend Robert, and he said, come on, what do you want to do? Come and do something at the network. And I just thought, prayer. Let's have an ongoing conversation about prayer with people that are excited by it, whoever they are. And that's how it started. And the first one was with August the 10th, 2020, with Reverend Serena Hemmer. She's a Unity and a metaphysical minister, and she's at First Unity in Florida, and she was my friend also, and that was amazing. And isn't it incredible? I mean, you know what it's like when something is working and you don't have to put a lot of effort into keeping it going. And I've always had people coming to me and saying, I want to be on the Cosmic Prayer. I want to be on the Cosmic Prayer. So it's always scheduled out without me really having to do much. And at times I've thought, maybe the Cosmic Prayer is coming to its, maybe a year is enough. Maybe it's coming to it. And then like 5 people will just contact me and say, I want to be on the Cosmic Prayer. Okay, I'm still here.
I love that though.
The show that would not go.
Yeah, it's in the
It
flow.
wouldn't go. It's just like, yeah. And it's like,
Great.
oh, if
Reverend
all of
Laura,
life was that easy.
Yeah.
New Thought Media Network is just, it's so great. We were in school at the same time as Reverend Robert some of the time. And it's been really beautiful to watch his ministry unfold and be such a blessing. So great.
And so do you have a sense, because this is part of your ministry, the other show you're doing about mystics is part of your ministry. Do you have a sense of other things that are unfolding for you yet? Or is it not clear? Or what is...
Well, and what else do you do? I mean, do you do one-on-one work, or like what does ministry look like in your life now and next?
Yeah, it's kind of an amalgamation. I can't really separate out, for me here, ministry is great, being here, ministering here, being part of the network. And really the whole idea of a global reach, that's always been my whole thing. How do we get these teachings out beyond the centers? Because being in the UK, that was always my thing, okay, I'm in the UK, I'm a practitioner. And before COVID, it was kind of like, well, how do I connect with people around the world? And ministry was really good, the education, because that exposed me to other people around the world doing this. And I know all of the practitioners here in Region 12. So that's been really good. And it's just about sharing the teachings. And I think the labyrinth for me was such the way I came into this was no walls. There aren't any walls. I was walking that labyrinth, and it wasn't as if I was going to a building. Yeah, and I think for years of being brought up, kind of like, oh, okay, let's go to synagogue. It's that time, and then going into a heavy building. It's like, oh my gosh, that really didn't feel good for me. So the piece about being virtual and just free and not having a physical building, for me, is I know that's how I discovered something within me without needing that. And so if I can, anyone can. And now we're here virtually doing this work. So it's just like there's no boundaries anymore at all.
Right. And COVID has really made that more true, because more and more people are comfortable finding things virtually.
Totally. Yeah. And I can't imagine. No, you go.
Go on.
I was just going to say, I can't imagine, like, I take my mind back to how it was. And it's a blessing that this is the blessing out of the mess. This is the blessing that's come out of the mess, that we're here now doing this.
Yes.
No.
And you were ready for it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have other virtual offerings kind of on tap now, or?
Yeah, so I'm just creating the Women Power Alliance, which is a group for women to come together and share. Leaders, I mean, we're all leaders, whether we think we are or not, whether we're leading a kitchen, a family, a business, or a passion project. We all need that space, especially after what we've been through. And for me, it's that whole thing. It was menopause and COVID. and healing a relationship with my daughter.
So is that a virtual ongoing? What is that? Can you describe it?
Definitely. So it's just beginning it now. So it's a few of us together that it's a weekly call, and then I'm creating courses and all sorts of things, like a portal to meet in once a week, and then information, and just it's based in spiritual practice. So it's how we can develop our lives and our businesses and the things we're bringing into the world, and be grounded in spiritual practice. Really, everything rooted in spiritual practice. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And so if someone's interested in finding more out about that or interacting, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, they can either go to my website, lauratopper.com, or they can Facebook Messenger me, Laura Topper Love. Yeah, my website's probably the best way.
Okay, to find out more about that. Awesome. That's cool.
I have a totally unrelated question.
Go on.
How long have you been with Jason?
Oh my gosh, we've been together for 8 years, and we got married.
You got married?
Congratulations.
Yeah, we got married.
I actually heard this once, that the etiquette of old school etiquette is that you say congratulations to the male. This is all very binary, but anyway, and to the woman, you say good luck.
Yeah, that's very old to me, but it's very old school. Yeah.
So
very old school, because I would have thought it was the other way around.
So how old is your daughter?
Oh, my daughter is 20.
So she's a young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you has either of them or your mother or anyone else in your life, from the changes in you since your labyrinth experience, have you had anyone else kind of get more interested in what you're interested in, the spiritual way and practices and like that? Or have you seen changes in their open-mindedness to it, or their interest or commitment or practices or anything from your influence?
Totally. Yeah, totally. I can see how one person's intention or one person's energy and consciousness can shift something in a family. If they are, like, I've been really committed and devoted to what I believe in, and at first there was resistance. And as time's gone on, I hear my mom saying things like, "Oh, I need to meditate now." And I said, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "Okay." And my sister, and when I told them that I was now a minister, which I, for me to tell for my mom to accept, that I'm a minister and not a rabbi. And, it's like, that was a biggie, because there was not an understanding of that in her. And now she's kind of like, "Oh, this is fantastic. You're following your path, following your dreams." So I definitely see a shift in, and then I just put that down to, well, then that's my acceptance of me, accepting me. So that's what's rippled out.
Right. It's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah. And I think for so many of us, when we say the word minister, people assume a lot of things that are not true. The ministers and centers for spiritual living, or the philosophy or teaching of science of mind. Yeah. And so part of it can be the stereotyping of, oh, you're a minister. And part of it is, as they're around you and they see, oh, well, you may be a minister, but you're not all that bad. Right, that you're, actually a kinder, gentler being, and I like you. I feel like what I have seen for myself is, just what you're saying, as I have come to be at peace with who I am, then other people feel at peace with who they are in my presence. It's not just peace with who I am, it's peace with who they are. So I have more and more often, we both actually, and those of us doing this work, we find I think that, or at least in my experience, that people will say things like, I just like being with you. I just feel so good after I've had time with you. And I think it's that sort of seeing the truth of who we each are, doing our own work. I mean, we can't know the truth of our own divinity and not know it about everyone else.
Right.
Exactly.
Reality, right? So, and as we just know it more, even if we're not even focusing on noticing it for others, we notice it more in ourselves. We are automatically noticing it more in others, and then they are feeling that and responding to that, and it's working its way through their consciousness, even if they don't know it. That's the whole thing of, the butterfly's wings flapping in Japan or whatever,
and the ripple, and being felt thousands of miles.
And it's beautiful
true.
to see in your life. Like your life is a testament to that, the evolution and, going through a childhood where you were experienced to a different kind of spirituality that was not in alignment for you. And then having that direct experience, and then all that's emerged from then, and all the people you've touched, right?
Right. Including through the Cosmic Prayer Show.
Exactly.
And the other things that you're doing, the Woman Power Alliance and the Mystic Show, and you can't even know how many lives you're blessing and changing from the work.
Oh, wow. I just sit here. I sit here behind my computer and it's like, okay, what's next? It's just what's coming up and I'm doing it. And what's coming up and I'm doing it. And it is amazing how when we're loving it, it's maybe that's why the cosmic prayer hasn't, because I really love doing it and I love finding out I'm intrigued by people's lives, and maybe I'm just a bit of a gossip at heart, it's like, oh, tell me more.
I know, right?
It's my way of being able to,
Yeah, it's entertaining.
And prayer is a good topic to kind of delve into and understand how. It's amazing, people that have come on over the last 2 years. I mean, you came on and you had such a unique, we're all unique expressions of the divine, and so we all see prayer. And Ava came on dancing and like, this is my prayer, I dance. It's like, yes, we're all doing it so differently, finding that way to connect. And that's the ripple, that's the butterfly effect, isn't it? In different ways.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And then the conversation, as it has for me, and I know Z today, because I could tell from their reaction, that the conversation with you today then fuels our consciousness, our practice, and supports it and evolves it just from the conversation of each other's practices and experiences with spirit. And it's just, and it goes on and on and on.
Well, I have to say, we're really grateful that you were our guest today.
I've enjoyed being your guest. Thank you so much. I wouldn't have wanted to be anyone else's guest.
Oh, thank you for loaning us.
This is something we've always wanted to do, so we got to try it. And I know that we always close in prayer on the show.
We do.
So,
we do.
So we would like to have a chance to do that now. Who's going to start?
Well, I think that given all the conversation about the first 2 steps,
Reverend Laura has to do those.
Reverend Laura has to do those.
I'm gonna. So, do you want to set a purpose for the prayer for when you continue?
How about the continued evolution of the consciousness of all the people who hear this and all those whose lives they touch?
That's beautiful.
And your ministry.
And your ministry. That's the other of the unfolding.
Oh, well, I'd like to expand that to our ministry, because you're doing amazing things in the world, and you're touching so many hearts with what you're doing in the most unique and beautiful way. So, so I'm going to begin here. This is exciting. Let's just be and take a breath and be here. Be here now and be present. As I know that this life, this idea of life is God. Oh my God, life. Yes. I know that God is here in and as and through everything. This idea experiencing itself, knowing itself, taking shape as form. And yet back of everything, behind all of this physical manifest world, there is this thing itself, this ineffable essence, this love that is here, loving everything. It's all giving, all goodness. And it is seeking to express. As it is infinite and eternal, there's no beginning and no end. And the wholeness of this thing itself, of God, is everywhere. In every moment, fully complete and perfect. And I know that there are many, many names for this thing. And I know this thing as love. And this love is operating through the law. And it is manifesting itself into form. And as I bring my mind to the world, to the universes, to the multiverses, to the stars and the suns and the moons and the galaxies and this planet Earth, Mother Earth, Gaia, home to billions of beings and creatures, those that have been and those that will be and those that are here right now. This is all God expressing. And so I know that the immensity of this is me, as I am a point of consciousness in this. And as I open up and lift to the greater knowing of whose I am, I know that I am love. And I know that I am here to love. And I know that this love is immense. So I open my heart to being a greater instrument of this love. I open my heart to knowing the fullness of who I am, of whose I am, of the love that is always here, seeking to express. And as I am this divine, unique expression, I know that we each are perfect, whole, and complete. And I know this too of Reverend Z and Reverend Melissa, these beautiful lights that are here right now, shining and radiating their magnificence. And I'm so grateful that they're here. And I'm going to hand this prayer right over to them right now.
And so I, Melissa, accept this, all that is spoken, knowing the truth of it. So grateful that it has been spoken so beautifully. Grateful, grateful, grateful for the truth of the reality of this love, this power that animates and emanates forth from me, from each of us here and each of us listening, and all beings who each of us come into contact with physically and non-physically, seen and unseen. For it is all there is. I'm grateful to remember this truth. This is what I am. As I speak this word for ministry, aware that every one of us alive has our ministry, whatever that looks like. If we are consoling a friend, calling someone who needs to hear from us, reaching out for support when we need it, we are ministering. We are allowing this love to be expanded, witnessed, expressed. Everything we do, everything we say is an opportunity for this love to move. And I am grateful to open to an increased experience and expression of this movement of love through each of us, through our consciousness, through our beliefs, as old stories that are built upon falsified information, old rusty, crusty stories built on misunderstandings or a child's view of a story, they melt away by the presence of love, like sunshine through fog, simply dissipating the fog. And the sunshine of this love, this truth, radiates and increases love through each of us, allowing us to be more authentically kind, more fully present to the truth of the divine that is here wherever here may be in each and every moment, as we allow ourselves to be more of a blessing for this world, for this earth, and for all beings, all creatures, all of life itself here. So grateful to be used in this way and to invite and welcome all of us to be used in this way. I am grateful for the blessing of this love as I pass my word to my beloved Reverend Z.
And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to be here in the energy of this prayer with these two beautiful, wonderful beings and everyone listening here, all of us together, this consciousness. I am grateful for the way that Spirit is unfolding, blessing, empowering Reverend Laura's ministry as it moves out beyond walls, beyond borders, touching so many more lives than she could ever even imagine, because Spirit is doing this in such a magnificent and powerful way through Reverend Laura. I'm grateful for the wonderful surprises that await in her ministry, for the glory and the beauty and the connection, and how Spirit is just having its way with her. And I'm grateful for our ministry as well as it unfolds, and the blessings and surprises that await as we also break through those barriers and walls and move forward. And the way that we're all dancing and playing together, I bless and claim and affirm the expansion of the ministry of everyone, for we are all truly practitioners of Spirit and ministers of Spirit. And so the blessing and the expansion of the ministries of everyone who is listening now. It is beautiful. It is Spirit at work, Spirit at play, Spirit moving and expanding and blessing so many people. And I pass my word now to Reverend Laura to finish us for this prayer today, for this special edition.
Thank you, Reverend Z. And I accept this again with love. This light I accept in my heart with gratitude for this wondrous time being together with Reverend Z and Reverend Melissa, and with everybody that's been viewing or will view this in the future. Gratitude for this technology, gratitude for the wondrous conversation and the inspiration, and gratitude for the knowing of love, this love that is always here, this invisible cord that is in my heart, that is in Rev Z's heart, Reverend Melissa's heart, each and every viewer's heart, every single person, sentient being, this love that is everywhere. I am grateful. So I hand this over again and step aside, knowing that it is done. I let this be, simply saying yes, just as the creative law says, yes, 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 with thanks, with gratitude, with appreciation, with an open heart, and with faith. And so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. What a prayer.
That was fun. Thank you for letting us take over get your baby.
Anytime. Thank you. You need to come back on again. I'm just gonna do this, a little shout out for you, because here's your website. I have to do it. The presenter in me is coming out. You know.
She took back the reins. She took back the reins.
No longer baby.
I'm not taking them back. I'm handing them over. You can explain.
It's yours.
The first time I looked at your website, and I read your website name, I was actually like, Oh my God, live. I've found it. I've landed. This is amazing. So I'm just going to invite anybody that dares to tap those words into their computer. You're going to get a wonderful surprise when the page comes up. And there are so many beautiful offerings and different ways of experiencing God and love, and with all of your creativity. So thank you for being you and bringing this forward into life. It's a real inspiration.
Thank you.
It's fun.
And I'll just put this up as well. New Thought Media Network is a global focus ministry. I'm just looking for the thing here, but maybe I can't find it. So we're here every day, every single day of the year, with broadcasts like this. And if you like this, and if you're supporting of the vision of the network, have a look at the website, ntmedia.org, and there is a donate link there, and you're welcome to pop your treasure into the donation box, the donation link on the website, and stay tuned in. Keep your computer on, because there's more shows coming up today also that I'm sure you're going to love. And until next time on the Cosmic Prayer, thank you for coming here today and for being here, Reverend Z and Reverend Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you.